Good morning. So first, I'd like to invite the young and the young at heart to come forward and get comfortable at home for a time for all ages. This morning, I have a story for you from the land of Transylvania. Now, you may be thinking, oh, this is perfect. Halloween, Samhain, Transylvania is the birthplace of vampires, right? But did you know that Transylvania is also the birthplace of the Unitarian Church in the 1500s? And today, we are celebrating what it means to be a community of faith, a Unitarian Universalist community of faith. So this story begins a long time ago in a small village in Transylvania. And in this village, which was made up of Unitarians, they didn't have their own church. And so they decided that they wanted to get together and build a church up on the hillside overlooking the valley of the town. And so they got to work and they were chopping down the trees and they were cutting the wooden beams and placing them for the church and carrying stones for the foundation until one day they looked up and they saw that it was finished. And they were filled with such joy. They decided that they would go down to their homes for their evening supper, and then they would come up that very evening to sing and to pray together in their new church. So everyone went down to their homes, except for one little girl named Zora, who stayed behind with her father. They had brought bread and cheese, and so they sat on the hillside and they ate their bread and cheese. And then when they were finished, they walked around and admired this beautiful church that they had all made together. Well, all of a sudden, Zora looked around and she realized something. She said, "Father, Father, the church isn't ready." And her father said, "What is it, Zora?" And she said, "Well, there are all these tall lampstands all along the walls of the church, but there are no lamps in them. When the people come up to worship, they won't be able to see. It will be dark." And her father said, "Ah, little one, this is not a problem. The light of the church comes from the people. You shall see." And with that, he went over to the newly constructed bell tower and he pulled the rope and dong, 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 rang the bell and called the people to worship. And Zora sat there on the hillside and watched as the sun was setting behind the mountains and the people were coming out of their houses carrying lanterns. And the lanterns were coming together as it was getting darker and darker into a stream of light coming up to the church. And Zora's father said to her that each family is entrusted with a lantern. Each family lights their own way to the church. And so it was true. And when the lanterns arrived, they were all placed up on these lampstands. Zora's mom brought their family's lantern and held Zora up so that she could place the family's lantern on their lampstand. And Zora watched all through the service, mesmerized at the lights dancing on the walls. And when the service was over, everyone took down their lanterns and brought them home. Well, that night, as Zora was getting tucked into bed by her mom, she started to wonder about this. And she said to her mom, "Daddy told me that the light of the church comes from the people. But I also saw that the light of the people came from the church tonight, and that we carry that with us through the week." And Zora's mom said, "Ah, Zora, I'm so proud of you. You are learning so much about our faith. It is true, the light of the church comes from the people. And it is also true that the light of the people comes from the church. And even when these lamps go out, we hold the light of truth of the community in our minds, and we hold the flame of love of this community in our hearts to guide us always." Oh, and with this, Zora, she felt like she understood how it all worked, and so she cuddled up and she fell asleep for a deep and peaceful sleep. And that's the end of the story. So, friends, I want you to remember that we each bring light to this community, but that together, that light is magnified so that we draw strength from each other. And when we leave, we don't leave just with our own light. We carry the light of the community in our hearts and in our minds to guide us on in our lives. See you soon. Good morning, and welcome to Wondering Questions about Time for All Ages. And we're talking about this wonderful story, A Lamp in Every Corner, which is by Janeen Grohsmeyer, and it's in a book of that same title. And we're talking about, the story is really about what a faith community can bring to each of us and what we bring to a faith community, and how we depend on each other. So everybody is responsible for bringing their own light, which means their own wisdom, their own sense of truth, their own sense of right and wrong. And when we come together as a community, that wisdom grows. We learn from each other. And so that light grows. Our love grows, our awareness grows, our understanding grows. And we get to keep that with us. So when we go through our lives, then as we're thinking and wondering what to do, we have all that collected wisdom from all our time together that we can draw upon. Just like you draw upon the wisdom of your parents and your ancestors and your teachers when you're thinking about what the right thing to do and the wrong thing to do is. Sometimes it's very simple, but sometimes it's very helpful to have the wisdom of the community with us, because we can lose track. So I'm going to send you a link to make your own paper lanterns if you'd like, and play around with this idea of light and guiding each other, and the strength of that light increasing when we bring that light together. Enjoy.